Om Swamiji. If according to Vedanta, this worldly experience is nothing but suffering and can only be transcended with self-realization, what does Patanjali Maharishi actually mean when he says future misery should be avoided? Can we really avoid misery while still being trapped in samsara?
So first of all, this is not one question, these are many questions. Second, this is a complicated question. Complicated in the sense that many people that are watching this evening may not be able to understand half of the words that are mentioned there. So in order to solve this problem, we are going to read again this question slowly, and I will try to translate the Sanskrit words into English, into reasonable, simple language, and let's see how it goes.
Okay. So Om Swamiji, if according to Vedanta, this worldly experience is nothing but suffering. And
Nothing but suffering. Okay, let's stop here. The worldly experience means the day-to-day experience that we get as a human being. We experience the external world through our five senses. We experience thoughts, sensations, feelings, emotions within our own self. We experience joy, happiness, pain, indifference, attraction, repulsion, friendship, connection with people, connection with animals, connection with trees, fear, elation, depression, so many things are there. Is all of this suffering? No. Our experience consists of both joy and suffering. Human experience includes joy, and also it includes suffering, and it also includes neutral experiences. So three types of experiences: joyful experiences, painful experiences, and neutral experiences. Experiences that come from our own body and from our own mind, experiences that come from other beings, and experiences that come from the great forces of nature. For example, the corona pandemic comes from the great forces of nature, and it's a global experience. People all around the world are experiencing it. Also, the human personality has so many aspects, some of them very elevated, some of them very base, some of them negative, some of them positive. So the nature of our worldly experience is diversity. We experience diversity. And definitely it's not only suffering. It's suffering and it's joy. It's a mixture. And neutral experiences. So this was the first part. So the question was, according to Vedanta, but what is Vedanta? Vedanta is the philosophy of the Upanishads. The Upanishads are the ending portions of the Vedas. The Upanishads are teaching about the true nature of the person and the true nature of the world and the true nature of the self and the true nature of God. In other words, the Upanishads are teaching about the true nature of reality, inner reality and external reality. And it's a grand teaching, it's a wonderful teaching, because it teaches the oneness of all existence. The gist of the teaching is all existence is one. And the true nature of existence is joy, not suffering. So what do we learn in Vedanta? That the real nature of existence is joy, it is not suffering. In fact, we learn in the Bhagavad Gita, yoga is the separation from the union with pain. I repeat, this is one of the definitions of yoga within the Bhagavad Gita. Yoga is the separation from the union with pain. So yoga is being practiced in the world. We don't practice yoga outside of the world. We practice yoga as human beings. We don't practice yoga as gods or as angels. We practice yoga as human beings within the human experience that includes both joy and suffering. This is how that includes all types of thoughts and all types of mental states, all types of emotions, all types of relationship, all types of situation. This is where we practice yoga. And yoga is described as the process where we separate ourselves from the union with pain. So yoga does acknowledge that there is pain, but yoga is described as the separation from the union with pain. While Vedanta says that the true nature of reality, the true nature of the self, is pure joy, incomprehensible joy, that is covered by a layer of ignorance. A layer of ignorance is like a veil that we need to cross. Then we see our own true nature. Our true nature is joy. It's not suffering. Suffering is due to the fact that we are immersed in ignorance. This is the reason of suffering. So, will it be true to say that the nature of this world is suffering? No, the nature of the true nature of this world is only joy, not suffering. Do we experience suffering? Yes. Do we experience also joy? Yes. So to say that all of this is suffering will not be true. This is not the human experience. This is not the worldly experience. The worldly experience, this is a mixture of joy and suffering. But joy is temporary, and suffering is also temporary. We don't mind that suffering is temporary, but we do mind that joy is temporary. When joy is there, we would like to sustain it, but this is not possible. When suffering is there, we would like the suffering to go away, but this is also not possible. Suffering will go away in its own good time. Why? Because joy has a cause behind it, and suffering also has a cause behind it. Our worldly experience is based on the law of karma. What we experience in our daily life is based on actions that we have done in the past. Good actions, negative actions. Good actions means doing good to others. These are good. Doing good to ourselves, doing good to others. These are good actions. The main thing is the motive behind our actions. When we did good with the intention to do good, this is a good action. Sometimes the intention is good and the action is not so good. Still, the result of such an action will be a positive result because of the intention. We truly strive to do good, but the action was not very successful. Similarly, when we do negative actions that are done in the past also have a result. So positive actions that are done in the past have a result in our present life. Negative actions that we have done in the past also have a result in our present life. These results are called karmic results. Karma is simply the law of actions and their results. Actions that are done in the past, results that are being experienced in the present. The result of positive actions that we have done in the past is joy that we experience in the present. The result of negative actions that we have done in the past is suffering that we experience in the present. The result of neutral actions that we have done in the past is neutral experiences that we experience in the present. Because we have done these actions in the past, joy cannot be avoided, suffering cannot be avoided, neutral experiences cannot be avoided. They have to be experienced. But how we respond to these experiences, this is our free choice. So all of our experiences in life are the result of things that we have done in the past. But how we respond to the experiences are things that are done in the present. This is our free choice. If my response to my experiences is positive, I am generating seeds for future joy. If my response for my experiences is negative, I generate future suffering. If my response to what's happening is neutral, I generate neutral future experiences. So every action produces its own result, and every result is pushing me or motivating me to do more action. And more action will produce future results, and this process of action and results is perpetual, is practically infinite. So can we say that the worldly experience is all suffering? No. Can we say that the worldly experience is all joy? No. Can we say that we are satisfied with worldly experience? No, we are not. Because we are not satisfied, we are always, to a certain degree, unsatisfied, and this pushes us to do more action. For what purpose? In order to improve our situation, in order to improve our lot, in order to be happier, in order to experience joy, in order to experience love, in order to experience security, in order to experience safety, in order to experience friendship, in order to experience success, in order to experience victory, in order to experience wealth, so many things. No one wants to experience poverty. No one wants to experience failure, and so on and so on. So the first thing that we learn is, if we want to experience joy in the future, there is only one way to achieve this, is by bestowing joy on other people, on other beings, not just people. There was a cat here, on the cats, on the trees, on the people. Therefore, Swami Shivananda said, do good. This is the formula. If you do good, in the future you will experience joy. Even if you don't want to experience joy, you will experience joy. This is unavoidable. On the other hand, if you bring suffering to other people or to other beings, you are going to experience pain. This is also unavoidable. So within the yogic teaching, it is quite clear. If we want to experience a worldly life, which is relatively joyful, we need to do good. The more good we do, the more joy we are going to experience. It's as simple as this. So this was the first part of the question. If we want to be healthy, we need to help other people to heal. If we want to be wealthy, we need to do a lot of charity. Charity brings wealth. If we give, we are going to receive. If we smile to a person that suffers, when we will suffer, someone is going to smile and help us. What we sow, we are going to reap. Our desire is to be happy, so let's generate happiness. Let's bring good to other people. So this was the first part of the question. Now the second part.
What does Patanjali Maharishi actually mean when he says future misery should be avoided?
Okay, Patanjali Maharishi was a sage that lived somewhere in between 200 BC to 200 AD. We don't know precisely when he lived. He was a great sage, and he formulated a text. He wrote a text that is called the Yoga Sutras, the aphorisms of yoga. It summarizes the teachings of yoga. It's a most important text within the field of yoga. And most of our teachings are following the teachings of this text. The person's name was Patanjali Maharishi. He was a great sage, and his name was Patanjali. Then he said something which we all understand what he said. It's very easy. Future suffering should be prevented. We understand this. In fact, there is a saying in English, prevention is better than cure. We say so, isn't it? Prevention is better than cure. It's better to prevent disease than to cure disease. Similarly, if suffering can be prevented, this is much better than removing suffering. How do we prevent suffering? We prevent suffering by understanding the true nature of reality, by understanding the true nature of our own self. If we understand the true nature of our own self, the true nature of reality, not just theoretically, but experientially, directly, we are going to prevent suffering. How are we going to prevent suffering? We are going to liberate ourselves from the cycle of karma. The cycle of karma is called samsara. Because of actions that we are doing, we will be forced to experience the results of the actions. And because we will be forced to experience the results of the actions, we will be forced to be born again. And when we will be born again, we are going to experience so many things within and outside that are the results of our own actions. And we are going to react to these experiences. We will be forced to react. We will be attracted to certain things. We are going to have aversion to certain things. We will be indifferent to certain things. These are actions. Attraction will motivate us to act in a certain way. Repulsion will motivate us to act in a different way. Indifference will motivate us to act also in a different way. This action will become seeds of future experiences. So again, we will need to be reborn. When we are reborn according to the teachings of yoga, we are not reborn only as human beings. To be born as a human being is considered a rare type of birth, a difficult to get. We can be born as an animal, as a tree, as a god, as higher creatures, as lower creatures. There are so many species within the universe, according to the teachings of yoga. There are 8,400,000 types of species within the universe. There are also many planes of existence. This is just one plane out of 14 planes of existence. We could be born in any one of the planes of existence. So many universes out there. We could be born in so many places. We could experience pure joy. We could experience pure suffering, intense joy, intense suffering, mixed experience. There are so many possibilities out there because we have done so many actions in our infinite past, and we are forced to experience the results of all of our actions. We cannot experience all the results of our actions in one lifetime because the reservoir of seeds is almost infinite. So we come back again and again and again and again. And eventually we realize that this cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death is actually a cycle of suffering. We are trapped within the cycle. So at a certain point, we develop this desire to liberate ourselves from this trap, from this infinite cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death, that is realized to be suffering. Why is it suffering? Because the joy that we experience is exhausted by experiencing it. The joy that we experience is exhausted by experiencing it. The joy was generated by a limited action. Therefore, the lifespan of the joy is limited. So therefore, that joy that we experience, we cannot sustain. It's going to pass away. Every joy will pass away. Every pain will pass away. Every life will pass away. Every type of life will pass away. When joy passes away, there is suffering. When we understand that joy is temporary, there will be fear. All the people that we love, they are going to pass away. They are going to disappear. The people that we hate also are going to pass away. Everyone is going to pass away. This body is going to pass away. It's impossible to sustain anything. So the nature of reality where everything changes all the time, everything passes away all the time, is called samsara. Samsara means this cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death, with a myriad of experiences where we cannot sustain joy, where we cannot sustain suffering, where we cannot sustain anything. Everything, the thing that we love the most, are going to pass away. The thing to which we are attached the most are going to pass away. We cannot sustain, let's say that I love to see the beauty of the external world, but my eyesight is going to diminish. Sooner or later, I will not be able to enjoy anymore. I will not be able to see. I will not be able to smell. I will not be able to hear. I will not be able to taste. I know some people that temporarily lost the capacity to smell and to taste. Such a suffering, suddenly the desire to eat started to vanish. Because what type of joy is to eat if you cannot experience taste? And what type of joy is to hear beautiful music when the capacity diminishes? Not only this, our capacity to think clearly is going to diminish. You know this. It's called dementia. Old age. Our beautiful body is going to crumble, is going to disintegrate, is going to fall apart. Our beauty is going to diminish. One day this will be a corpse, it's going to decompose. Everyone knows that this is true, but we push it out of our mind. And this is going to happen again and again and again and again. And if we saw this beautiful movie, Groundhog Day, our normal experience is a Groundhog Day normal experience. We are going to be reborn and reborn and reborn and reborn. And one day we will understand that joy is suffering because it passes away and it changes. Everything is suffering. Change is suffering. Attachment is suffering because it brings pain. Success is suffering because success is temporary. Relationships are suffering because they are temporary. So it's all suffering, 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 suffering. How did this suffering came about? Through the process of reincarnation. Limited action produce limited temporary results that are exhausted by experiencing them. So as we experience this beauty, to be in this ashram means that we have generated a lot of good karma. I'm not biased to the ashram. I'm just telling you what the teachings of yoga is. To be in such a place, to get this type of teaching, we must be multi-trillionaires in positive karma. And as we experience this beautiful place, this karma is being burnt, is being exhausted. It cannot be sustained forever unless we are generating new merit. We call this merit. We need to generate a lot of merit to sustain this type of surroundings. So after a while, we understand that as we act, we generate always future suffering. Even our joy is suffering because it's going to pass away. Our suffering is also suffering. Everything is suffering. And this understanding generates the desire to liberate ourselves from this vicious cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death due to karma. The vicious cycle that is called samsara, a vicious cycle that is there because of ignorance, because we do not know the true nature of the self and the true nature of reality. So then Patanjali Maharishi comes in and says, future suffering needs to be prevented. And then he explains how to do it. He gives us the teaching of Ashtanga Yoga, of the 8-limb yoga that we all know very well, yamas, the restraints, the yogic restraints, like, for example, ahimsa, non-violence. This is a yama. This is a practice. Mahatma Gandhi was practicing it. Yama, niyama. Niyama means observances, like cleanliness. This is an observance. Asana, yogic postures, we all experience it. Pranayama, the breathing techniques. Pratyahara, the control of the senses and the capacity to disconnect the senses from the sense object and to withdraw the senses into the mind as a preparation for concentration and meditation. Concentration of the mind, where we gather the scattered rays of the mind to one point, turn the mind within, and prepare our mind for meditation. Meditation where the mind focuses on an object and flows like a flow of oil, which is continuous towards the object of meditation, up to the point where it merges in the object of meditation and becomes one with it. Samadhi, that is a state of union with the object of meditation within our mind. So the yoga of 8 limbs is like a ladder that takes us to the highest state of consciousness, where we are able to realize the true nature of reality, the true nature of the self, the true nature of the world, the true nature of God, the true nature of our fellow beings. And by realizing this, the suffering that is caused by ignorance is being resolved. Is being resolved means is being stopped. You remember the definition, yoga is the separation from the union with pain. The separation from the union with pain is generated by following the 8-limb yoga, the Ashtanga yoga, that leads to a state of consciousness where ignorance is being removed, and therefore the causes of suffering that will come in the future are also removed. At that time, we are practicing what Patanjali Maharishi said. What did he say, Swamiji?
Prevention is better than cure.
No, that's not what he said. What did Patanjali Maharishi say?
He says future suffering should be avoided.
That's correct. Future suffering should be avoided. Then we practice it. You can continue with multiple questions. Supposedly this was one question, but it consists of so many questions.
So the question was answered, Swamiji.
Thank you.